Okay, we're recording. This is crazy and wild. This adventure, this endeavor that we are on. So, as we begin, I just wanted to say welcome to Pruning the Final Rose. As you can see, we are very much in theme here with our roses. We got a little Bachelor in Paradise action going on. So, for those of you that are tuning in, my name is Naji, and I am one of the co-hosts for this special show that we're doing. And my
Meyer.
co-host, sorry, go ahead.
I'm Jim Meyer. I'm Sarah's co-host.
Yeah, and so, Jim, as we were wrapping up 2020 and kind of this dumpster fire that it was, I feel like it kind of depleted everyone, right?
Absolutely.
And so, as we were ending the year and looking towards the new year, that is 2021, there's a lot to look forward to. And one of the things that I was most excited about was The Bachelor. I don't know about you, but I was very excited about this season of The Bachelor for several reasons. One of them being Matt James, first Black Bachelor for season 25 of The Bachelor. And honestly, after a year that I feel like we were depleted, we were empty, I feel like Matt James is really the tall glass of water, the glass half full that we really need to get us going.
Matt James is the Bachelor that America needs right now.
He is.
Not all of America may know why they need Matt James, but they need him nonetheless.
And they're going to learn either if they're watching right now, or maybe I know probably that are people that are watching the show may not even watch the show. Maybe they're just watching us for the recaps or the insights. I know, I don't blame them. It's kind of insights. Correct. It's kind of funny because folks that know me know I'm not a big sports fan, but I like to describe, and people that are into The Bachelor, like it is a spectator sport, right? This is my sport that I love to watch. And so I think oftentimes in the past, The Bachelor was a shared viewing experience, and people would have watch parties together. And that's not really as common since we're in a pandemic right now. So I thought, what better way than to start this show? And I mean, like, isn't that what people do in a pandemic? They start podcasts, they start YouTube channels. We're jumping on the bandwagon, Jim.
Yeah. I think that your analogy to sports is really apt for a lot of reasons. It occurs to me that, The Bachelor and The Bachelorette and Paradise, they happen in seasons, right? And so we come to anticipate a different season, and then because it's really important to stay on top of the action chronologically, this is not something that is as enjoyable to stream many years after the fact.
Well, there's different players too, right?
Yeah.
Contestants.
And so it's really important to kind of be on top of the sport, the season as it's rolling out, and it gives us something to share, which television doesn't do the same job of providing in the way that it used to when we were all compelled to watch the four networks.
Right. Yeah. So like after this past year, I think we've all kind of had to really ground ourselves in whatever is grounding for us. And this may be embarrassing, but The Bachelor was one of those things for me that was grounding. I just absolutely loved, since we couldn't be together, I loved going on my daily walks and listening to Bachelor podcasts. And that was something I could look forward to most days, because there's a lot of content out there. And so I know, Jim, when you and I started talking about, we started this a week ago. We haven't had a lot of planning for this whole process. Let's just put that out there. But you came to mind because I know that, so we are neighbors. And I remember one of the initial things that we bonded over was just our love and yeah, just our bond over The Bachelor. And I think in general we have similar TV tastes. And I think you've been watching the show a lot longer than I have. I know that we kind of have different perspectives when it comes to The Bachelor, but you were the first person I thought of when I thought like, let's start this endeavor. And I'm excited about doing this with you, Jim.
Yeah, I'm truly honored to be thought of in any sort of like Bachelor context. And you know, it occurred to me when I looked up this morning when The Bachelor started, 2002. 2002 was the year that I basically like shifted from graduate school to my professional life as a teacher. And you know, so in many ways, it's been almost 20 years that the show's been on, which is to say that it's been on for a generation now.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the things that I'm excited to talk to you about in the context of this show, and one of the reasons why we kind of landed on Pruning the Final Rose as an appropriate title, is
Mhm.
that I think that you and I agree that this show has done a good job in fits and starts of adapting to the times.
Mhm.
It may not always be a leader in that respect,
Right.
but I also feel like it plays to an audience that is not necessarily on the same page when it comes to relationships and what a
Mhm.
perfect relationship looks like, or even, you know, a good relationship. And so I'm
Yeah.
excited to talk to you about ways that we feel like The Bachelor may be growing up as a franchise now that it's coming out of its teen years and is going to
Mhm.
be a young adult, right? It's turning 19 in March. And so in particular, I think Matt James as The Bachelor, and the season has launched this past week.
Mhm.
I see it as an indication that the franchise is serious about growing with the times, and we can
Mhm.
get into more detail about that later.
Mhm.
But in the
Well,
same
you
way,
know what's interesting, Jim? How you
yeah, go
talk
ahead.
about the franchise, the season, the show, the entity of Bachelor, is how it's growing up. But I think what's interesting too, and I think we're going to dive in a little bit deeper throughout the season, is the host, the legend, the
The
myth.
man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah, that is Chris Harrison, but he has been with the show since it started, right? Since its inception. So he has been one of the main constants of the Bachelor franchise. And so it's interesting too. I think we were talking about this earlier. We've seen Chris Harrison grow as well. Like he has aged with the show. And so he is kind of in a very different phase of his life. And
Yes.
I think that we're going to talk about that a bit more. I know that you really talked about that when we were talking about our show beforehand, and what is Chris Harrison's role with the show, and really kind of tapping into that. And so I think that we're going to talk about that throughout this series because I mean, Chris Harrison is a big part of The Bachelor.
Well, and I'd put it this way, you know, I mentioned that 2002, which was when the show started, was also the year that I began my teaching career. And the relationship that I have with my high school students is very different now than it was then because, you know, at the time I was maybe, you know, 10 years, if not that, older than my students, and now I'm more like 30 years older than they are. And so if you think of,
So
and
you
this
are
is,
Chris Harrison.
if you think of me as Chris Harrison, which I wouldn't blame you if you made that mistake previously. If you think of me as Chris Harrison, then you consider the fact that the Bachelor, the typical Bachelor, well, hasn't changed a whole lot in age on this show, but Chris necessarily has.
Mhm.
Um, I think another interesting like means of comparison is another show that started at about the same time and has had the same host the whole time and has worked really hard to kind of elaborate on itself is Survivor.
Mhm.
And so I've watched Survivor basically from its inception, and if you think about the way that Jeff Probst has changed as a host of that show, I think I don't know that it's been quite as seamless for Chris Harrison. And I think maybe it's because he's got in some ways a bigger challenge because he is dealing with young people who are have big questions about how relationships do work and how they should work. And in many ways, that's harder than surviving in the jungle.
Right. Physical challenges, mental challenges. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, so what do we bring to the table, right? Well, I think it's interesting. So I have only been watching The Bachelor for a few years. So I think in terms of our different perspectives on hosting the show, I have kind of immersed myself into it. Once I drank the Kool-Aid, I was in it, and it is like escapism for me.
Yeah.
So many people I think ask like, well, why do you watch it? It's not even real. I just want to clarify. I don't believe this is verbatim, like real. What happens on the show is truly authentic. I don't believe it's all fake though either. But I just enjoy the storytelling. I enjoy the characters. I enjoy rooting and just the psychology, the different dynamics that play out in the relationships. And so I am definitely one of those people. I don't follow everyone on Instagram, but I think that what I can provide is a little bit more context on maybe current players of the show. In what's happened more recently, whereas you've been watching since the inception, so you provide a little bit more historical context on the show.
Yeah, I've been watching since the inception, and I'm also not an Instagram guy. Like that's not my generation. And so I feel like, and I mentioned this to you yesterday, I feel like maybe I have a little more vertical experience when it comes to the history of the show, but yours is more horizontal. You have a broader understanding of how the show is working in. I think many people might say that that this is now kind of. I know the ratings are slightly down, but in many ways, because of the way that the franchise has kind of intersected with social media, Instagram, Snapchat in particular. This is arguably the golden age of the Bachelor franchise. And I've watched the show long enough to remember some of its more awkward moments. And like I was telling you, I think that my first season of The Bachelor was the second. But I remember watching The Bachelorette with Trista Ren from season one. I'll say that I've always found that show to be more compelling than The Bachelor for reasons that we can get into. And in large part because I think that the women leads do a better job of getting to know their potential partners. But then again, maybe Matt James, who I'll go ahead and take claim for this term. I have christened Bachelor 2.0. For reasons that we can get into this season. I think he might provide a new model for how The Bachelor is going to be cast, and the kind of freedoms he's going to be allowed to take moving forward.
Yeah, I'm just so excited. Let's see. I think the first season that I truly started watching was Ari season. I was definitely like watching every episode. But like I said, I listen to different podcasts about The Bachelor. That's kind of one of the things I enjoy. And so we don't want to necessarily recreate this, but we kind of just want to do our own thing. This is a brand new adventure. I don't think either of us have done anything like this. And so I know, Jim, we talked about, for me at least, I have very low expectations. The bar is really low. I mean, we're just doing a Zoom call right now and recording in terms of our production. And so I think our hope is that as the season progresses, whatever the final episode or show that we do will look maybe a little bit better. Because we're starting from like the base level here.
Yeah, and what I would say in response to that is, unlike you, I feel like I've been one of the great potential untapped resources when it comes
Yes,
to
that's why I thought of you, Jim.
I have flirted with this idea with friends and colleagues, and none of them have successfully pinned me down. So I guess this is my way of saying congratulations to you, Sarah, and let's see if I can raise our level of expectation any higher.
Yeah, I mean,
make our fall all the more dramatic.
Yeah, our followers, they are in for such a treat, to get to know you, and I'm just so excited. This is going to be a wild ride.
Almost paradise.
Yeah. Almost. Maybe that should be our theme music. We are still looking for theme music. If anyone out there wants to help us with that.
If you have any tech savvy whatsoever, I think I can speak for Sarah when I say that we are operating from, like ground level.
Mm-hmm.
I just found this background. I didn't know how, my hands are disappearing. I didn't know that you could do Zoom backgrounds. And yes, I am a teacher, so perhaps that's an indictment of me as a professional. But in the spirit of Bachelor Nation, I would suggest, Sarah, that we encourage our audience, all 3 or 4 of them, to collaborate with us on this experience moving forward.
Yeah. And also, so I was trying to think of like the analogy, like what our show, so we nailed down our title, our brand, Pruning the Final Rose. We want to kind of like trim it down. But the rose, obviously, because of The Bachelor. But I feel like we've planted the seeds for our rose bush, okay? And so hopefully by the end of the season of The Bachelor, Matt James, hopefully there will be something out of the ground. That's my hope.
Sarah, are we under the illusion that any of the roses that are used in the Bachelor franchise were actually grown from the ground? My sense is that they are all made in some sort of laboratory.
Probably because they all look identical, right?
Yeah. Which is an interesting metaphor maybe for the show. But I love the idea that you and I at least may be endeavoring to grow this rose from the ground.
Organically
is right.
Yeah.
No
that's what we're here for
whatsoever.
Yeah, organic content, y'all. So okay, yeah, so other things to note for our intro show, hopefully we'll do something once a week, and we're going to try our best, like we're just figuring this out as we go, so bear with us, I think is what I want to just say, as we learn. We're open to your tips, feedback, suggestions, input, sponsorship deals if you have them.
So long as they're constructive. I am not like coming on to this stage to recruit trolls for my life.
For sure. Yeah.
Okay. So just imagine that anything that you might.
We're swiping left to trolls, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, anything that you might think of saying about me, honestly, has already been said. So don't waste your precious time and finger energy. Otherwise, we're here for you.
Yes, absolutely. And so with that, I think that's our intro. And then stay tuned for more shows and episodes as we figure out this journey with you all.
I'm already really excited to talk about episode 1. And this is like, I would not say that necessarily about each season of The Bachelor, but just talking with you yesterday, it became clear to me that I think that
I'm so mad, Jim. We should have recorded. We had a really good conversation. Hopefully we can relive it organically, because that's what we're all about.
I mean, I imagine that Shakespeare spoke some first drafts before he put pen to paper. So
that's true.
We've got to cut ourselves some slack.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I need to trim my beard before the next podcast. I don't know.
I mean, live your best life. Like,
living my best life. Yep.
Whatever image you want. Like,
I'm not dressed for the beach, am I?
I guess not. No.
It's cold.
But that's okay.
That's true.
I don't think people are here for our appearances. I'm just
gonna
gonna say that. And I'm mainly for myself. I don't think they're tuning in. And that's also kind of what I wanted with this endeavor. I did not want to do a video recording, Jim. I wanted to just record our voices.
I've always thought that I had a face for radio. And
yes,
to be my opportunity to prove that. But
agreed. But you know what? Here we are. It's happening. We're doing it. And yeah, thanks for tuning in. If you watch the whole thing, and if not, that's okay. See you next time, or don't see you. If it's not for you, we're not offended. But yeah, thanks, y'all. I think we need like a catchphrase for leaving at some point. If y'all have any ideas, let us know.
Something
Trimming.
like
we got to trim.
That was the final rose. Gentlemen, go ahead and say your goodbyes.
Right. Chris Harrison's words.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Socially distanced.
Of course. Unless you're in a bubble. But okay. Thank you all. I'm going to stop recording.
Thanks, Sarah.